Welcome to Beyond BIM. If you are like me and so many people out there, you have probably started 2021 thinking about your career and goals or any other ambitions for the upcoming year. Today's interview will hopefully give you much needed inspiration and kick you back into action on making your career path your own. Specifically, I sat down to speak with Elinor Moshe on this topic. Elinor is both ambitious and driven, and she's a thought leader in the construction industry. Her passion to guide, inspire, and direct future leaders and industry professionals is what led her to the founding of the Construction Coach. She is also the host of the Constructing You podcast and has a #1 best-selling book called Constructing Your Career. This book is recommended for anyone wishing to start the new year with more purpose to step into the proverbial driver's seat of your career. We spoke about mentoring, coaching, and the mindset of built environment professionals. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and now let's sit down and hear more about how we can begin constructing our careers directly from Elinor. Thank you, Elinor. You have a versatile background in architecture, construction management, to mentoring. Now, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what led you early on in your career to this current stage as the founder of Construction Coach?
Thank you very much for having me on your show, Erica. It's great to be on the other side of the microphone. Well, I am an ambitious and driven thought leader in the construction industry. And as you correctly noted, it is my passion for guiding, inspiring, and directing future leaders and industry professionals to construct their own career, which led me to founding Australia's first construction coach, the Construction Coach. I'm also the #1 best-selling author of Constructing Your Career, which is my book of practical action and inspiration to work on the 12 foundational stages on the greatest project you ever will, which I'm sure we'll talk about in the balance of the interview. And I'm also a podcast host of Constructing You. I did start my career in architecture, which of course was a great illusion, and one that I am so glad that it did not work out for me by any means. And I was thinking, what else is it that I can do? Because I do have a legitimate passion in the building industry and the built environment. And I am someone who is quite structured and process orientated, but creative, not in that conventional sense, which I thought I was, thus going into architecture. Yeah. I never want to do another party model or another concept sketch for a building again. So I did further my education at the time based on the thinking that I had in construction management, and it opened up a whole new world for me. It was everything at once, and I just had so many questions. I was genuinely intrigued as to what this industry could actually offer. And then fast forward a little bit, I did graduate from my degree, and I am someone who has to do more. I need so many things on the go in order to, in a sense, feel fulfilled and also keep on contributing back. It's not sufficient for me to just take. I don't do that, which is why I'm an industry leader. So as soon as I graduated, I started tutoring, because I thought, well, I had these struggles in my degree. I'm sure there are other people of the same nature. And I found that the conversations with me would quickly change from the technical tutoring into mentoring conversations. And then again, I found, well, if I had this question and other people looking into the industry have these questions, I'm sure there is a commonality in the experience. So I asked the universe a better question: how can I actually serve more people? How can I actually reach more people? Because one-on-one has its limitations. So it was April 2019, and it was in the stillness of the night, which is where all my great ideas come from. It is the quiet and the stillness. And I just got the idea, the Construction Coach, and I was up till 5 a.m. that morning, registering a domain, filling a notebook full of ideas as to what I think it could be. And back then it started off as just a blog, and it has so quickly evolved into private mentoring and coaching. It has evolved into mastermind events subject to COVID, and a podcast, a book, and the blog, keeping to what it started as is still running, and it has been a phenomenal journey delivering this value to the industry, because a lot of the mentoring that happens is around a technical nature, and that is one thing that I do not focus on.
And I myself have run into your podcast, and you run this hugely popular podcast called Constructing You. And in this podcast, you interview exemplary leaders and industry titans at different stages in their career. Can you elaborate on the exact mission of that podcast, and where could our listeners find out more about it?
Of course, when you look at the built environment, you typically get the answer to the question, who built this, of the name of a company. But who are the people? Who are the people behind the project? Who are the people that had vision to actually bring these projects to life? That's why on my podcast, I interview exemplary leaders and industry titans to not just see what they've done, because you can look that up on LinkedIn, but also want to see who they are and who they had to become to achieve what they have, because first you become and then you achieve. And it is, of course, my duty as an industry leader to show people what is possible in construction, because it is so vast. But there is a convention when you're entering, you only aim to be a project manager. I want to be a project manager. Why? That's not it. That's not the end of the line. And when you do that, you actually leave opportunity on the table. So when I highlight the successful journeys of the guests on my podcast, I keep on unraveling to show people that there is so much more available to them if they choose to take paths less traveled. And I don't only focus on, again, the career aspect, but really on the person. It is about constructing you. Who is it that you had to become? What are the performance principles? What are the key principles? What is a handbook? What is a guidebook that has really made these people who they are? Because if you want to have a career in life that is reflective of them, then this is what it actually takes, because it is not the person who is risk adverse. It is not the person who operates out of a fear modality. It is not the person who continuously sees lack and limitation that you can actually achieve what it is that you want in construction. So if anyone wants to listen, it is available on all good podcast hosting platforms, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and of course, Spotify.
Awesome. And on top of that, if that wasn't keeping you busy enough, you also then publish your own book titled Constructing Your Career, 12 Foundational Stages on the Greatest Project You'll Ever Work On. Can you talk about what was the incentive to writing that book, and who might you recommend this book to?
That's a great question. And I can't believe it's already been nearly 6 months since the book has seen the world. And the most impactful piece of feedback that I've had was someone, they posted this on LinkedIn. They got home from work. The book came the same day. They were starting to read the book from 11 o'clock at night, and they were up till 5 a.m. devouring the book. And when you're putting out literature that is part of your legacy, it is quite vulnerable, and you are so eagerly waiting on people's feedback to see how is this impacting, and to get such a level of impact so early on in the journey of the book has been phenomenal. But I knew that I had to write a book, and I am strongly of the ethos that everyone has a book within them. And I, of course, will not get the chance to mentor every single person in the industry. So how can I give them the guide? How can I give them the mentor? And I can also give them the friend that I needed when I am and was constructing my own career. Because there is no other piece of literature that so cohesively and congruently pieces together what you need to construct your career on your own terms, one that is set by you. And if you look at conventional career intelligence in the construction industry, it ensures that people leave opportunity on the table. And what it also does, it doesn't actually construct career success from the inside out, because we live in a world that is created from the inside out. So the book is really a perfect balance between personal development and professional development. And I've written it for people. It's not about demographics. It's not about if you're 25 and just starting out. No, it is written for the ambitious people who want more, people who can play the long-term game. because everyone, wants to be an overnight success, but not many people want to be a 10-year overnight success. There is a very big difference. And I've written it for people who want more, who want to achieve more, who want to have more, and want to be more in their career, and who really want to demonstrate extreme ownership and know that they are in the driver's seat of their career and they are dictating exactly where we're going.
And of course, with all of this activity, it just shows that you're a solid advocate of mentoring and coaching. Now, this is something that I'm keen to learn more about as well. So, can you elaborate on the importance of this within our sector, particularly? And what would you say are some of the biggest missed opportunities for professionals in our industry when it comes to coaching and mentoring specifically?
That's a fantastic question, and probably a podcast episode within itself. But a lot of the focus in the construction industry when it comes to development is purely around the technical skills, i.e., physical construction. And that is only required and will get you far in your career for a short period of time in the early stages of your career. But to actually achieve massive career success, you need to learn how to have world-class communication. People need a personal brand, because in the professional marketplace, there is no differentiation. There is no professional differentiation. And it's not that they don't have a personal brand. They think they have one, but it is one that is not congruently and cohesively constructed. And it is also one which ensures that the individual continuously gets misinterpreted. And I'm not one who wants to be misinterpreted. I know exactly the message and the brand that I'm projecting out there. It is also about knowing that you can influence your income. People have such a fixed mindset when it comes to their own income. And the list of conventional career intelligence goes on and on. I'm not sure if it should even be called intelligence, because it continuously ensures that people leave opportunity on the table. So you can actually spend 10, 20, 30 years trying to figure it all out by yourself. And I do not have that much time just to be figuring out. That's a waste of time. I'm not getting any more time. I'm someone who is extremely time conscious and time sensitive. Once it's gone, it's gone. That's it. So I could either try and figure it out and piece little things together, or I can take immediate and massive action and identify a mentor. It certainly doesn't have to be in your marketplace, but there are advantages of when they do understand the industry that you're in. And you say, I need to work with you. Because when you work with a mentor, you are bypassing a whole myriad of challenges. You are bypassing the time that it actually takes to get you to where you want to go. I did have inklings, very faint ones, of writing a book when I'm 60, not when I'm 29, and let alone it being a bestseller. And I wouldn't have achieved so much of what I have achieved in 1 year, was it not for working with a mentor. And where people get caught up with mentoring is they have a sense of entitlement and they think that it should be free. No one knows you anything. No one knows me anything. If I want something, I have to do whatever it takes to actually achieve it. And then people go and say, oh, you're just lucky. Well, absolutely not. I worked for it and I sacrificed and I actually made decisions out of my future self. And I wasn't selfish or thinking that I want what this person has. They have to pour into me and actually get nothing in return. Mentoring is an energy exchange. And again, it is very foolish to think that you can traverse your whole career, which is a vehicle which brings you income, fulfillment, opportunity, growth, to think that that vehicle isn't going to get any sort of investment from you. It is foolish behavior and it is negligible practice. And one thing that my mentor says, Ron Malhotra, if CEOs ran their companies like individuals run their career, they would be fired immediately.
Wow. And if one was to sort of look at the availability of mentors, and you say that it's an investment, right? Where could one begin that journey? So what would be the appropriate steps taken? Let's say I'm in my career, although I'm an academic, but I do also work within industry, and I'm keen to find a mentor that's also somewhere in a similar domain as myself. How could I begin that journey?
First of all, you have to identify what is a problem in your career that you're currently trying to solve. Or you might say, well, You might not have a problem per se, but this is something that you now want to achieve in your career. For example, you maybe want to become a thought leader in your industry. Maybe you want to set yourself apart based on your personal brand, whatever it is that you decide you want to work on. So the first step is to actually identify the what, not necessarily the how, actually certainly not the how, but the what and the why. That is first and foremost your job. And that's what I did. I took a lot of time to construct my own vision and to understand what it is that I now wanted from my career. And I spent a lot of time sitting with that vision. And then what happened is, once you have a vision that is captivating and you have just enough belief in it, the universe aligns people and opportunities around you to make that happen. And that is how, literally through divine intervention, I met my mentor, Ron Malhotra. But these people do come across you. It is your duty to then ascertain, does this person have the results that I want? If they don't have the results that you want, there is no point of you engaging in a mentoring relationship with them, because if they're not going where you want to go, you're just being led down a path that wasn't set by you. And I experienced this in my own career. I had a mentor at the start of my career, which worked very hard to override my own dreams and my own ambitions based on their worldview and based on what they thought was good for me. And this is what happens when you don't actually decide on the what and the why for yourself in the first place. You get overridden. And assuredly, not many people have grand plans for themselves, let alone for someone else. So first you have to really focus on the what and the why. Then once you identify what that is, you find out who has the results that you want. And then you make sure that you do whatever it takes to align yourself with them.
And of course, another thing that we have all come across within our industry and virtually every industry out there is that, of course, we have to have the capacity to retrain and upskill ourselves quite fastly and potentially pivot into a new direction in our careers. And I'm sure many people have started out thinking they'll go that traditional pathway and they end up somewhere along the lines changing that career path, much like you did yourself. Now, one of the things is promoted a lot is the need for continuous learning, and because of the complexity of today's world. In your day-to-day work, what are some of the biggest changes that you have noticed in the careers of built environment professionals specifically?
Where to start? I mean, on the whole, people do not know how to communicate. People do not know how to have world-class communication, because when did we learn to speak? We learned to speak at a very young age, and that's it.
Sure, yeah.
And then people actually don't continue to understand or actually invest in, at minimum, their communication. And I see this all the time in the professional sphere, is that professionals cannot speak. They cannot sell, and I'm not talking about a commodity or a service, but at least their ideas. Yeah. And they also cannot connect with individuals. So on the whole, communication is something which cannot be undermined. And I didn't always speak like this. I was someone who completely flunked at a presentation, and I used to be someone who was so monotonous at the best of times. I didn't even know how I sounded at the worst of times, but I actually took it upon myself to understand that my communication and my voice is one of my most important assets, regardless of what you're doing. It is across the board. You also see people who, again, the personal branding is also really, really important, but it's not just about the soft skill set. People are really missing out on their mindset. People aren't working on their mindset at all. And it is actually in your mindset, in your worldview, in your philosophy, in how you actually understand what's happening in here first, that determines the career success that you have in the outer world. People have a tendency, when the results aren't showing up in their outer world, they try and resolve it via a tactical approach. That's not ever going to work if you're not fixing the programming and the mindset and understanding how the most powerful tool in the universe is actually available to you to achieve anything that you want. So
what do you
really
sorry to jump in. What do you mean by tactical response? So what does that look like?
So for example, someone may say, I want to stand out. So what they do, they might start posting anything on LinkedIn. but they actually have a fundamental fear of standing out, and they have a fear of what other people may say. So the minute that someone may say something that doesn't agree with them, they just quit. They just give up immediately. So LinkedIn is a tactical tool. It is just a tool like any other social media platform in order to achieve what you want.
Yeah.
It goes the same, with branding. Branding is not just colors and a logo, right? And this is where I also thought I went wrong when it came to branding. When I first generated the look for the construction coach, I thought I'll make it really construction-y. But that had nothing to do with me as an individual. Mm-hmm. So the tactical approach is just looking at a few color palettes and putting together a logo and sticking that on a website and some quote tiles without actually going through the process of understanding who it is that you are. What is your message? What do you stand for? What is your brand? What is it that you're actually trying to convey? How can it actually be magnetic? What are the other elements that are associated with having a personal brand? Do I actually want a personal brand to stand out? Mm-hmm. So again, that's the tactical part. That's just a tool, but that will not get you the results that you want without first addressing the mindset issues. And on a more professional level, you have people, for example, going to ask for a promotion, but in their mind, they actually have already decided that they're not going to get it and that they're not worthy of a promotion. So they've already rendered their chances as reduced instead of actually saying, hang on, the conversation could be different around that. So again, that's just a tactic as to how to ace your performance review, but then you actually have the mindset, which is first and foremost required to be worked on to achieve what you want in your physical reality.
And is that mindset also the one that has the kind of nature of always continuously being open to learn something new and feeling as though you have to continuously improve oneself? Is that the differentiator, like the foundational block for that right mindset to begin the journey?
Of course. Well, first of all, you have to actually have a genuine curiosity and a willingness to learn, and not think that because you've done a degree 5, 10, 1 month ago, that's it. That's where that learning stops. Yeah. Everything that you need has been provided to you by the academic system or has been provided to you by your workplace. That's not the end of it. So first of all, it's actually understanding that the learning cannot actually stop, because if you stop learning, if you decide to stand still, everything still keeps on going around you. Everything still keeps on moving. And especially now in a competitive market of amplified competition and very low differentiation, people who actually stop, they're going to be left ridiculously behind. And it's not COVID's fault. COVID hasn't caused any of the issues that people are experiencing nowadays. COVID has just exposed what professionals are experiencing in their career. So without actually that curiosity and that willingness to say, I need to improve. And if I don't do it, no one's going to come and give it to me, literally put it on my lap and say, here, this is exactly what you need. You actually have to reach out in the first place and actually want to continuously learn. And again, this is outside of conventional academia, and this is outside of your workplace. It's not the workplace's duty to continuously tell you this is what you need. It doesn't work that way. And if you do that, you're actually in the passenger seat or the back seat of your own career. You're not in the one in control. Your employer is.
Yes, of course. And I think the other thing that kind of sprung to my mind was that perhaps some people might be feeling slight anxiety, or there might be an issue of ego, which is preventing them from seeking for mentorship or coaching. Now, is this something that you've witnessed as well with some of the clients and people that you're working with on a day-to-day basis? And how might one get over this kind of situation of anxiety or the ego that is kind of stopping one from finding the right mentor or the right coach?
That's a great question. And they are two excellent examples of some of the things which prevent people, and I'll unpack them separately. If it's the ego talking, it's actually saying, I already know everything. Well, if you actually know everything, do you have the life and lifestyle of your dreams? The answer is probably not. And then you actually need to ask yourself, how did I actually come to the conclusion that I know everything that there is to know? And if you still say yes, well, you should be winning Nobel Prizes and you should be the president of any country if you are that excellent in everything that you know, and you've already exhausted every opportunity, and you have done intense amount of research and intense amount of study, and you have completely spiritually aligned yourself, then you might be able to say, I'm good. There is no one who is self-actualized in this world, except there may be some monks or maybe some people. I mean, there are a few people in the world who have such a high energetic signature. I think there's only 12. So your ego is going to get in the way of your growth. And you have to decide, do you want to keep on carrying around your ego, or do you actually want to understand and see, I can actually do more. I can actually achieve more. I can actually have more. And I don't know anyone who's actually had a massive ego that has also gotten really, really far and been fundamentally fulfilled. There is a difference. Now, the anxiety is another type of fear, and that's a byproduct of something else that an individual may be feeling. So maybe they are feeling fearful that they don't actually know if they can actually go on this process and achieve what is actually set out on the process. They don't even have enough belief in themselves to carry forward. So that manifests itself in anxiety. Where a lot of people falter the most is anxiety around that investment part. But what they're actually failing to realize is that 1,000, 2,000, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20, 50, that is an investment, meaning you get a return for the rest of your life. I invested in mentoring. That mentoring program is done. I'm still reaping the benefits. I'm still applying what I've learned. I now duplicate that. I've done it once, I can do it again. I've done it once, twice, I can now teach other people to do it again. People, when they are standing at the outset of a mentoring decision, they're very quick to quantify what they may lose, meaning $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. Oh, I'm going to lose that. No, I need to hold on to it for dear life because I live out of a scarcity mindset and lack. And if I let it go, I'm never going to have it again. I mean, that's obviously not the case. But what they are not quantifying is everything that I can gain. I can gain a position which allows me to triple my salary. I can gain assets into my career, which I didn't have before. I can actually maybe build a business which will get me exponential returns, because nothing in people's past conditioning actually allows them to see what they can gain. They only are conditioned to playing out the movie in their mind, in which everything sets on fire, in which they will lose everything, in which it will be a total disappointment. And that actually gives people the anxiety. So what they do, they say, look, I'm going to shut down everything. I'm going to stay in my comfort zone where it's nice, it's safe, it's comfortable, it's fine. And then what they do, they rationalize their decision. Oh, you know what? It probably wasn't the right time right now. And look, I've just got a few things coming up, so it's not going to work out. And yes, of course, if the price goes up, I'll pay it. No, they won't. So they rationalize their own decisions with their excuses, and they keep on believing that. And then you play this out for an entire of one's career. I can't say the results are anything to sing about.
And going back to the practicalities of finding that mentor or coach, is it best to go through an organization such as yours, one that pairs you perhaps with the right mentor? What are the practicalities of actually getting a mentor? Maybe you can tell a little bit more about how a construction coach works and operates.
So I'm not a type of mentoring business in which facilitates other mentors. I am the mentor. So I run the programs and all the IP that goes around it. So the mentoring is my own. There are professional associations. There are, of course, businesses like the construction coach. There are, many coaches in the marketplace. But the one thing that you have to look at is, does this person have the results that I want, right? And you actually have to understand, when I'm getting into a mentoring program, what does a pathway actually look like? What is the benefit to me? And I actually need to make an assessment and not just go with something because that's what everyone else has been doing. Well, if you want the results of the masses, then yes, continue to take the results of the masses. But if you want to go down the path less traveled and to actually get the results that authorities like myself in the marketplace has, then you need to align yourself with that person. But fundamentally, mentoring is a very intimate relationship in that you really get to know the person and you spend a lot of time with that person. So nothing can ever outdo that connection that you have with someone when you first interact with them. There is nothing that can replace that. And very much so, that's what I made my mentoring decision on. It was seeing Ron for who he is. And I didn't have that much belief in myself when I started, but I had just enough belief to say that I know that I will make this work.
And I guess so many of us, as you already pointed out, kind of assume that mentoring is a type of volunteering activity. But maybe this, in many instances, is what reduces, perhaps in some sense, the motivation, the consistency of the mentors, and that this really shouldn't be a sort of free activity, because at the end of the day, these are very busy, successful professionals giving up time to help you grow your career, help you identify a new path in your career. So I guess this is perhaps another area that needs to be maybe demystified, that this should perhaps not just be a voluntary, free type of activity at the end of the day.
Well, no, and again, that comes from people's perception that everything should be free, but really, do people actually value what is free? I mean, you can right now Google how to become a multimillionaire, but who actually religiously follows the steps and they do every single thing that is required? But when you work with a mentor and when you actually have that energy exchange, you are already more invested in the outcome. You're already increasing your chances of getting the results because the person A has the results. So people really do need to let go of that illusion that it has to be free. And they also really need to work on their own understanding of money, and that money is just an energy. And if people are holding on to their money for dear life, they're actually suffocating it. And if they think that that's how they're going to get more of it, that's really not the case.
And finally, for those aspiring built environment professionals that are maybe entering this field, do you have maybe one golden piece of advice that you might want to give to them? Let's say something that you wish you had known when you had started your own career.
I did write a book on that, so I won't read you the whole book, but one piece of advice that I do always give when I get asked this question at the end of podcast episodes is to take action. You don't benefit from inaction, and there is a very hefty opportunity cost to inaction. The return on investment of zero is always going to be zero. And action has to be two things. One, it has to be immediate. There's no point taking action in 12 months' time. You've lost 12 months. No one's getting that back. You could be reaping the results in 12 months' time instead of only starting. And action also has to be massive, because if it's not massive, you're still in your comfort zone. You are still doing exactly what you have been doing. And that obviously hasn't been working, because if it was, you would be fulfilled. You would have the life and lifestyle of your dreams. You would be creating an impact. You would be living out all of who you are. You would be stepping into your own person. So that's not the case. So action needs to be two things. It has to be immediate and it has to be massive, because otherwise 2022, 2021, 2022, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, they're all going to look exactly the same.
Thank you ever so much, Elinor. That was ambitious and driven as ever, and hopefully hugely inspiring for those of us who were listening. Thanks ever so much.
My pleasure. Thank you, Erica.
And finally, a heartfelt thank you to all of our followers who have been with us so far. If you enjoyed this episode, then please follow us on LinkedIn or YouTube. And better yet, share this episode with your friends and colleagues.